Prologue. More than a game. Football has always been more than a game. For generations, it has carried the identity of cities, the pride of nations, and the emotions of millions who may never step onto a pitch themselves. Stadiums became places where history could change in 90 minutes. Victories transformed communities. Defeats haunted entire generations. And through every era, certain players rose above the noise and became something larger than athletes. Some changed tactics, some changed culture, others changed the very way football was understood. Legacy in football is not measured only through trophies or statistics. It is measured through influence, through memory, through the ability to leave a mark that survives long after the final whistle. Every era creates icons, but only a few become permanent chapters in football history. Pelé, the first global superstar. From the streets of Brazil to the stadiums of Europe, football's greatest figures carried more than talent. They carried expectation, pressure, and responsibility. Their careers became reflections of their time. And decades later, their stories still shape the sport. Because football never truly forgets. It remembers the players who changed it forever. It remembers the moments that altered its direction. And above all, it remembers legacy. Pelé arrived at a time when football was still searching for a global identity. Before worldwide television coverage and billion-dollar competitions, the sport existed in separate worlds. Europe had its own powers. South America carried its own traditions. International tournaments were important, but football had not yet fully become the universal language it would later become. Then came a teenager from Brazil. Pelé transformed football into something international. Brazil's rise to football immortality. His rise felt almost impossible. Born into poverty in Três Corações, Brazil, Pelé grew up far from luxury or privilege. Football was not a pathway guaranteed to lead anywhere. It was survival, entertainment, and escape. He played with makeshift balls and developed an understanding of movement that seemed instinctive. By the age of 17, he was already changing the world. At the 1958 FIFA World Cup, Pelé became the symbol of a new footballing era. Brazil had long been viewed as talented, but emotionally fragile after the trauma of losing the 1950 World Cup final on home soil. Pelé helped erase it. The 1970 World Cup would later become the ultimate expression of his legacy. Brazil's passing, movement, and rhythm elevated football into spectacle. At the center of it stood Pelé, older and wiser, controlling matches through intelligence and vision. He did not simply dominate his era. He helped define football's identity for future generations. Maradona, football's most human genius. While Pelé introduced football to the world, another figure transformed the sport into pure rebellion. Diego Maradona did not arrive as a symbol of perfection. He arrived as chaos. Where Pelé represented elegance and universality, Maradona represented emotion, struggle, and unpredictability. He was football at its most human. Born in Villa Fiorito, one of the poorest areas of Buenos Aires, Maradona carried the identity of Argentina's working class everywhere he went. Football was not simply entertainment in his world. It was escape from poverty. By the time he reached professional football as a teenager, his talent already seemed beyond explanation. The ball appeared attached to his feet. Mexico, 1986. The hand of God and the goal of the century. The defining chapter came in 1986. At the 1986 FIFA World Cup, Maradona became more than captain. He became emotional leadership. Against England in the quarterfinal, football witnessed two moments that would permanently define his legacy. The first goal became infamous, the hand of God. The second became immortal. Picking up the ball deep inside his own half, Maradona dribbled past multiple English players before scoring one of the greatest goals football has ever seen. The contrast between those goals captured everything about him: controversial, brilliant, flawed, unstoppable. Napoli, a city and its savior. But Maradona's greatest legacy may have been created not with Argentina, but with SSC Napoli. When he arrived in Naples in 1984, the club had never truly challenged Italy's traditional powers. Maradona changed that reality. He turned Napoli into champions. The city embraced him not only as a footballer, but as a symbol of resistance. Victories against northern clubs carried emotional meaning far beyond sport. Under Maradona, Napoli won league titles, domestic trophies, and the UEFA Cup. For the people of Naples, he represented dignity, and that connection between player and city became one of football's strongest emotional bonds. Johan Cruyff, the man who changed football thinking. As football entered the modern era, the sport became faster, wealthier, and more commercialized. And in the middle of that transformation emerged a player whose influence extended beyond football itself. Johan Cruyff did not merely dominate matches, he changed the way football was understood. Cruyff emerged from the Ajax system during the rise of total football, a tactical philosophy that rejected rigid positional structures. Players rotated fluidly across the pitch. Defenders attacked, attackers defended. Football became about intelligence. Cruyff became the perfect expression of that philosophy. Total football and Barcelona's philosophy. The 1974 FIFA World Cup permanently altered football philosophy. Although the Netherlands lost the final, their tactical sophistication changed the sport forever. Results mattered, but style now mattered too. Cruyff later carried those ideas into FC Barcelona as manager. Possession football, positional awareness, technical development, and attacking creativity became part of Barcelona's identity. Without Cruyff, modern football may have evolved very differently. He proved the game could be approached like both art and strategy. Franz Beckenbauer, football's quiet authority. If Cruyff represented football's tactical future, Franz Beckenbauer represented authority. Nicknamed Der Kaiser, Beckenbauer transformed defending into leadership. Before him, defenders were expected mainly to stop attacks. Beckenbauer changed that understanding. Operating as a sweeper, he carried the ball forward confidently and controlled matches through calmness and intelligence. West Germany defeated the Netherlands in the 1974 World Cup final, symbolizing a clash between structure and innovation. Beckenbauer's influence extended beyond his playing career. He later won the World Cup as a manager in 1990, becoming one of football's most respected leaders. Sometimes influence changes the game quietly, one movement at a time. Zidane, elegance and imperfection. Football's history has often been shaped by players who carried entire nations on their shoulders. Few did so more dramatically than Zinedine Zidane. At the 1998 FIFA World Cup, Zidane became the symbol of a changing France. Born to Algerian parents in Marseille, he represented unity during a period of national discussion about identity and multiculturalism. His football felt calm, even in chaos. He controlled matches through balance, timing, and technical mastery. France defeated Brazil 3-0 in the final, and Zidane's image lifting the World Cup became iconic. Yet his legacy would later become more complicated. At the 2006 World Cup final, Zidane headbutted Marco Materazzi and received a red card in the final match of his career. The moment shocked the world. But it also revealed football's truth. greatness is rarely perfect. Cristiano Ronaldo, the obsession with greatness. As football entered the 21st century, globalization transformed the sport. Broadcasting deals expanded audiences worldwide. Clubs became international corporations. And in this new world emerged Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo built his legacy through relentless evolution. When he arrived at Manchester United FC in 2003, he was talented, but inconsistent. Under Alex Ferguson, he developed discipline. By 2008, he had become the best player in the world. At Real Madrid CF, Ronaldo evolved into a relentless goal-scoring machine. He broke records that once seemed untouchable. And through years of pressure and expectation, he continued adapting. His legacy became tied to ambition. Discipline without compromise. Preparation without complacency. Everything driven toward victory. Lionel Messi, football as art. Yet while Ronaldo embodied power and determination, Lionel Messi represented something entirely different. If football were reduced to its purest artistic form, many would see Messi as its ultimate expression. Born in Rosario, Argentina, Messi's path nearly ended before it began because of a growth hormone deficiency. Barcelona offered opportunity. That decision changed football history. Within Barcelona's academy, Messi developed inside Cruyff's football philosophy: possession, movement, technical precision, spatial awareness. What separated Messi from others was control. The ball appeared permanently connected to him, even at full speed. The World Cup that completed Messi's story. For years, one criticism followed Messi. Despite dominating club football, he had not won a major international trophy with Argentina. Then came the final act. Argentina won the Copa America in 2021, and at the 2022 FIFA World Cup, Messi completed football's greatest modern narrative. The final against France became one of the sport's greatest matches. Messi scored twice and finally lifted the trophy that had defined his career pursuit. For many supporters, the debate ended there. Messi had conquered every stage available to him. His legacy became connected to joy, a reminder that football could still feel magical in an increasingly commercialized world. Liverpool: tragedy, identity, and resilience. While superstars shaped football globally, certain clubs became symbols of entire communities. No club represented emotional resilience more than Liverpool FC. Under Bill Shankly, Liverpool transformed into a giant. But the club's legacy was shaped not only by success, it was also shaped by tragedy. The Hillsborough disaster permanently altered English football history. 97 supporters lost their lives due to catastrophic failures in crowd management and policing. The tragedy forced football authorities to rethink stadium safety. Yet Liverpool's response also demonstrated football's emotional strength. "You'll Never Walk Alone" became more than an anthem. It became a statement of solidarity. Barcelona: more than a club. Elsewhere in Europe, Barcelona became more than a football institution. It became cultural symbolism. During the dictatorship of Francisco Franco, Catalan identity faced repression. Barcelona represented expression and resistance. The phrase "més que un club" reflected that deeper meaning. Football matches against Real Madrid CF carried political and emotional significance beyond competition. Over time, Barcelona developed an identity built around youth development and technical football. La Masia became one of the world's most respected academies, and under Pep Guardiola, the club's philosophy influenced football globally. Their tactical revolution reshaped the sport itself. Brazil 2014, when football became national pain. International football has always created moments larger than sport itself. Few nations understand that better than Brazil. In 2014, Brazil hosted the World Cup carrying enormous expectation. The nation hoped the tournament would restore pride and unity. Instead, the semi-final against Germany became one of football's greatest shocks. Germany defeated Brazil 7-1. The collapse stunned the world. Inside the stadium, supporters cried openly. For Brazil, football has always reflected national emotion intensely. Victories become celebration. Defeats become trauma. And the 7-1 defeat became a permanent scar in football history. Sir Alex Ferguson, building an empire. Football legacy is not created only by players. Sometimes it is shaped by leadership. Alex Ferguson transformed Manchester United through longevity, discipline, and adaptation. When he arrived in 1986, the club had spent years struggling. Ferguson rebuilt patiently. He trusted youth development and demanded relentless standards. The emergence of the class of '92 helped shape an era of dominance. But perhaps his greatest achievement was adaptability. Across decades, football changed completely. Yet Ferguson continued winning. His retirement in 2013 demonstrated how deeply one individual could shape an institution. Some legacies become part of a club's foundation itself. South Africa 2010. Football belongs to the world. Football has also been shaped by moments of collective unity. The 2010 FIFA World Cup carried significance beyond competition. For the first time, the tournament took place on African soil. The event symbolized recognition for a continent that had contributed enormously to global football culture. Vuvuzelas echoed throughout stadiums. Supporters from across Africa embraced the tournament as a continental celebration. Spain eventually lifted the trophy, but the deeper legacy belonged to representation. The tournament proved football's biggest stage could belong to every part of the world. Legacy never ends. Throughout history, football has repeatedly evolved. Tactics changed. Athletes became faster and stronger. Technology transformed broadcasting and analysis. But despite modernization, football's emotional core remained constant. Supporters still search for unforgettable moments. A stoppage time winner. An impossible comeback. A player carrying an entire stadium through belief alone. Legacy is created in those moments. Not every great player wins the World Cup. Not every legendary team dominates forever. But football remembers influence. Epilogue: the battle to be remembered forever. George Best became unforgettable because he represented football's early celebrity culture. Ronaldinho became beloved because he played with visible joy. Paolo Maldini represented loyalty and defensive excellence. Ronaldo Nazario showed how brilliance could survive devastating injuries. Andres Iniesta delivered one of football's most important goals while remaining remarkably humble. Every generation creates new debates, but the deeper meaning remains the same. Football legacy is ultimately about memory. Parents telling children about Pele. Supporters remembering Maradona in Naples. Fans replaying Messi's dribbles or Ronaldo's goals years after retirement. The sport survives because memory survives. And perhaps that is what makes football unique. It is constantly changing, yet always connected to history. The greatest legacies are not always measured in numbers. Some are measured in feeling, in silence before a decisive penalty, in the roar after an impossible comeback, in the memories shared by millions. Because legacy is football's most enduring competition, not the battle for one season, but the battle to be remembered forever.